The idea of the museum really resulted from the mission statement. It talked about an educational center, a place of learning. The outdoor site was always meant to be the symbolic element, and the museum was meant to tell the story.
We took many, many people out onto that site. And it was very important that they understand what we were doing. What we were trying to say was tell a story. And that story was what happened, where we've come, and that there's hope.
It probably would have been easier to knock down this historic structure and build back in many ways, but it would have had not near the meaning. And to see the room of damaged area.
This is part of the area that we will preserve in its state that it is in today, like it was left after the bombing. This will be sealed off with a glass wall so that visitors can come to this area and see the impact of violence.
We knew very early on we were going to preserve a part of this building. We took plywood and preserved a large portion of the building, and then once we had our full plan figured out, we began to narrow that down. We gave many tours of this building to have people understand what we were trying to accomplish together.
We brought in the subcontractors and everyone who's going to touch this project. And we came to agreement that we would all, and that our companies and that our organization would all do our very best, and that we would not get mired down in the challenges, and that if challenges arose, which they always do in construction, that we would be willing to sit down and have very honest discussions about coming to conclusions. And everyone signed that contract.
The Oklahoma City committees had been meeting and determined the chapters, as they called them, that the whole process and the story would revolve around. Those representatives participated in every single meeting that we had. We had bi-weekly meetings. We went to Oklahoma. It was not a time of teleconferencing.
With the help of the staff at the memorial and their volunteers, we identified a group of people from each of the three groups, the victims' families, the survivors, and the rescuers, who would be good interview subjects.
We wanted to tell the story powerfully enough to obtain the attention of those who came and visited, but yet not recreating the pain.
Conducting the interviews was always interesting and moving because people were telling me something that was of extreme importance to them. They were, for the first time, confronting very raw emotions that they hadn't presented to anyone else before.
I can't really, describe how hard that was for us to not take on their burdens because you wanted to. The human side of you wanted to do that.
In the interviews, it was very clear that they were brave, that they had a lot of emotional intelligence, and that they were confronting what was going on.
You had to, try to keep some professional distance so that you could tell the story in historical purposes.
I was just so angry, and I felt like the right things weren't going to be done. I mean, I just felt like the victims wouldn't be remembered like they should, and I just felt like I had to have a hand in it and I had to have a voice.
We all knew that this was fairly rare for a museum of this caliber to be open so quickly after an event, and to be dealing with people still very much involved in the community and still involved in the professions and all the stuff that they were involved in during the bombing.
In a situation like that, the best of humanity rises to the top. It was one of my most important life lessons, maybe the most important life lesson, is to watch people come from this, I've got to be memorialized and I've got to be remembered like you do after a devastating loss like that, to what can we do for the world.
We had the code word of inclusive and not exclusive. That was so important, and in my opinion, that's what allowed us to have it be what it is today.
It was probably about a 3-year process that we, talked with rescue workers, talked with family members, held meetings and such, collected their stories, sought out pictures, artifacts, and the likes.
We sought consultants, all of whom were were very experienced, worked on the Holocaust Museum in Washington, other high-profile museums. But when we received the narrative from the consultants, we didn't think it hit the mark in telling the story in the right manner.
And they didn't ring true. The words weren't ours. The story wasn't right.
And we decided we were going to take a step back and not change the flow of the museum, but change a little bit how we told the story.
At night, we called it the prayer group. On Wednesday night, we met and we rewrote the script or the text for our museum walls.
We were going to tell it in our own words. It wasn't going to be written by someone off the East or West Coast. It was going to be written by Oklahomans because it really was the Oklahoma story.
At times they were very somber sessions, depending on what you're dealing with, and times they were very enlightening and humorous sessions, depending on what you were dealing with.
People did seem to want to know what I thought, and they did seem to care what I thought, and I knew by that they cared what everybody, all the other victims' family members thought too, and the survivors.
Every decision that we made was scrutinized, was worried over, was reverted back to time and time again. We'd take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back.
It was all right for me to get upset, and it was all right for me to feel the same kind of bewilderment and pain that everybody else was feeling. I think that makes us a lot more sensitive as things occur. We look at them and we say, how do we want to handle this if we were the victim?
You had these walking, talking artifacts that were out there, and you had to get the story right. There was not any space for a mistake. You had to get it right, and it had to be right the first time.
This was really unique in that this was kind of the first of its kind. There have been other memorials and other museums that have been built to mark certain, maybe long-term events, but nothing had this one-day event timeline tied to it where the tragedy occurred in just that one day.
We ran into challenges, but we all were solutions-oriented when we would sit down and talk about what we would be able to do. Just credible people with a very personal stake on the line to do this right.
We almost felt like we owed it to the victims, to the families, to the survivors, that we be on time, on budget, and a quality that is representative of a museum that is going to be a memorial and be around for a very long time. It needs to be unwavering in the way that it's presented. And so the materials we selected, the bronze, the aluminums, all the different metals that go into this, all had that same philosophy in mind, and that they were designed for longevity.
I can remember many times being on the phone with the exhibit design folks, with the photos and the words and the panels and the artifacts.
FedEx closed at the airport at 11 o'clock, and I would say 5 nights out of 7 we were there at 5 to 11.
Talking through late at night and shipping off a package for them to be able to include a panel, knowing that we were just a few weeks away from installation, or in some cases a few days away from installation, and they got it done. Wow. This is the design competition stuff right here. I can remember when we got this simple model and we thought, oh my gosh, are we going to be able to pull this off? And this is the mock-up that we use to help educate family members about how we would be able to showcase their loved ones' memories. The family and survivor meetings were incredibly important to the process. It kind of kept us on a true north always. Oh, these are the designs, the original sort of drawings for the museum. Yeah, see, and that's again where you would start to understand the scale within the building, the Journal Record building. This was something that we were able to have at those meetings, and we would say, this is what it's going to look like, and we wanted people to see that we were looking for timeless materials and that we had gone to the extra expense, even when money was a concern.
The artifacts help tell the story, and they certainly bring the story to life.
I began seeing all kinds of things, and I said to people, don't lose that. When maybe you're not ready to give it up yet, but the day will come. What I started doing then was I made personal calls. I went to any place where they said, yes, we have materials. We very quietly built the archives. It's very, very hard for the family members and survivors to know that we have materials that are very unpalatable to them. But if we don't collect those materials now and those materials are lost, we will have shaped history.
We always did previews for family members, survivors, and rescuers. That put additional pressure on the craftspeople and the tradespeople to get that job done so that it was ready for those who had the most at stake in this process. There was a level of fear, certainly for some. They didn't know what to expect. When I knew that we had done a good job, was finding that people were reacting in different areas in their own way.
It came time to dedicate the museum, and we had asked President Bush to come, and he was a brand new president.
Memorials do not take away the pain. They cannot fill the emptiness. But they can make a place in time and tell the value of what was lost. The debris is gone and the building is no more. Now this is a place of peace and remembrance and life.
Of course, I remember George Bush hugged me. He even kissed me as far as that goes.
The Oklahoma City National Memorial Museum is in a very important place that teaches you not just the story of what happened in Oklahoma City in 1995, but how we should deal with responsibility and remembrance and resilience, and how you should process those things either individually or collectively.
Oklahoma City has given a great gift to the world, by knowing how to listen and respond to people.
It's so well done, so tastefully done, but yet so historically done.
Given the chance to participate and trusting to people to do the very best they can allows almost anything to be accomplished.
The fact that we got on it so quickly after the bombing to put that together, and the fact that it's been accepted so well by the Oklahoma City community shows that we put together something that this community is very proud of.
The way the community came together is directly reflected in how the museum was constructed.
The process of what we accomplished will far ever outweigh the end result.
Most museums are created in that they are turned over by the sponsoring organization to consultants, and the consultants go out and develop the story and create the museum. Ours was different.
That was such an example of how people come together and make compromises.
You had family members, survivors, and rescue workers who were involved in every word, really, that was chosen, and in the review of every video.
It was, to me, a very healing process, even though at times I know I didn't act.
Just being a part of it, those people enriched my life.
People were determined to help each other, to be decent, to find a constructive response to this terrible event.
I want people to walk away saying to themselves, challenged to see that this never happens again.
People still come to Oklahoma City and they still want to know the story and they still want to see the memorial.
You do feel every day that you're affecting change. You are helping change somebody's life, somebody's outlook.
Kids feel like, that when they come here, when we talk to them and let them know what happened here, and then they will think about that, that violence is not the way to solve our problems. And then they will take it back and tell other people.
The perpetrators did not accomplish their goal. They did not win. If anything, it just solidified a city and a community and a nation, and here we are. And here we'll be 20 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now.